Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Sam Radi from Goodfood. Welcome you aboard to our second session today from CyberX, specifically as our first event in the Middle East. We will be speaking today about could cybersecurity be outsourced? And to give this topic a good discussion, actually, I was able to connect with a couple of my friends and have them share their ideas about the topic. We have with us on the panel Mahmood Elrefai. We have also Mounir Kamal, and we have Roland. I will give the chance for each one of them to introduce themselves. We'll start with Mahmood.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mahmood Elrefai. I'm a cybersecurity consultant working for Saudi Business Machine. I have more than 15 years of experience as a cybersecurity professional within the banking sectors. I had many several roles for the past years, around 10 years of it in the leadership roles. And most of career life I came from banking industries. So my focus today will be related to the finance sector.
Excellent, thanks, Mahmoud. Mounir?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mounir Kamal. I'm working with information security since the last 20 years. It is different experience from telecom sectors, multinationals to national CERTs. Most of our focus in the security of incident response, threat intelligence, digital forensics, and assessment of threats and vulnerabilities.
Awesome. Thanks, Mounir. Roland?
Hi, everyone. My name is Roland Daccache. I'm the team leader for systems engineering in Crowdstrike. I've been in the endpoint market for more than 12 years. And today I'm representing Crowdstrike because I truly believe that Crowdstrike is defining the future of endpoint security technologies. My expertise is with many vendors in the past around endpoint security, threat hunting, and digital forensics.
Okay, thank you, Roland. So let's start with the topic of the day as we discussed. It's could cybersecurity be outsourced? This is actually a question. If we ask this question 5, 6, 7 years ago, people will think that we are crazy, not security people around, and will say, "What do you mean by outsourcing cybersecurity?" But we are now in a place where this is possible. This could be happen. There is many cybersecurity service providers in the market. So my first question to you all is why we are even talking about outsourcing for cybersecurity? What are the motives behind us going to that route and look for cybersecurity service providers? And I will start with Mahmoud.
Yes, thanks, Samir. Actually, this topic's become hot nowadays due to evolving of the cybersecurity requirement across the industries. Many regulators come by force, then the requirement need to be fulfilled. Additionally, to the lack of talented people nowadays to cover all these domains, the cybersecurity it's a huge domain. And it's difficult to find the talented people and maintain them within your organizations. In addition to that, the cost and timing behind that. So the more cybersecurity controls, the more cost you have to invest, the more time to look after the solutions, people, train them, etc. So outsourcing things, it could resolve some of those issues, but not for all industries are recommended. This could be a good fit for the SMB, small medium business, not for the large enterprise.
Okay. Mounir, do you want to add anything for that?
For me, information security was started at early 2000 by the concept of compliance-driven security. And there is a major change during the last 10 years. It has been changed and moved to a threat-driven information security, or a risk assessment-driven information security. But security have a very broad of areas. If you look from a business perspective, there is a certain area they have to keep some control of information security, and there is a different area that will not utilized by the organization teams in it is more practical to outsource this area to be outsourced. I will ensure the quality of the security. I will ensure the deliverables from this outsourcing process without affecting my budget of information security in a high way that could allow me to hire a full stack of information security expertise within my organization to protect and defend my information systems or information in my organization.
Good. Roland, what's your take on that question?
Very simple, actually. It all boils down to economics, I believe. Very difficult to hire and retain very high caliber cybersecurity talent in digital forensics, incident response, threat hunting, a very complicated asset landscape that we have to protect. Cloud workloads, on-prem servers, working from home employees. So basically, it's very difficult for companies to do everything in-house today. That's why hiring MSSPs or security as a service providers simplifies and saves a lot of money for companies. If your privacy is insured, I think it's definitely a no-brainer to start considering outsourcing some parts of your security to professional companies in that space.
We'll leave the privacy aside now. I will come to this topic at the end of at the top of the hour. But this is a very good topic, actually, that yes, most of the people will forget about privacy. Our security lenses, usually it's security, data, life cycle, but privacy is not one of the top things we are thinking of. Mahmoud, coming back to you, from your perspective, can the cybersecurity service providers get you the same security controls that you could deploy or have on-prem?
Well, to better understand the difference between outsourcing and in-house cybersecurity solution, the cybersecurity concerns are a massive barrier between our organizations or any organization and the digital transformations. As you may know, 83% of the enterprise workload moved to the world cloud. Many organizations are trying to find a way to balance digital progress with the digital safety. After all, the more digital techniques are created, the more threats factor you introduce. To help many organizations, big or small, and onboarding either a full suite of in-house cybersecurity professional or outsource the cybersecurity solution to help them mitigate risk and adopt best-of-breed security policies. As you may know, in the past, organization would squeak by with the IT team that more multiple hats. In today's threats ecosystem, 53% of business report being a victim of cybersecurity attack. Cybersecurity needs to be positioned as a business solution, not as a matter of tech tools. Let's look at a difference between in-house and outsourced cybersecurity solution across 4 primary security pillars: overall cost, business time commitment, management responsibility, and ability to meet non-technical needs. From overall cost, this starts with in-house cybersecurity team aren't cheap, by the way. You have to spend a lot of money, you have to allocate budget. It's not easy also to allocate a budget due to exercise within the enterprise. This reason that make 77% of SMBs plan to outsource the cybersecurity in the next years. Also, to start the average salary nowadays, if you look after the average salary nowadays for the expertise, it's about $90 yearly, annual. For that reason, to manage, to allocate, to transfer the cost to a service provider will give you a peace of mind to have a fixed amount and just assigning SLAs with them, and you transfer that headache to them.
Okay, you transfer the headache, but wait until you are in the court. So it will become your headache, not their headache after that.
Actually, it requires a ton of oversight, but it's at the end of the day, it's my accountability to manage these things, but I transfer responsibility to manage providers. So within a signed and a written SLA, just defining very well my scope and monitor that scope very well. It's easier than to maintain end-to-end cybersecurity within in-house.
I agree with you. So Mounir, from your perspective, do you think policies alone are enough actually to detect all the threat vectors and security as a service when you deal with a cloud provider?
To be honest, policy is one step for a very long process to develop information security that could detect threats and react to threats. Let me summarize the policy, how it's being created. First, policy is whenever there is a corporate, I would like to develop a policy, I have to check the national regulation with this country. I have to check the sector regulation with this sectors. And then I have to align with the business objectives. So I define what is the business attributes that and the business requirement that could enhance the business using my information security. At this step, I would like to create a business management process that evaluates the risk, and at the same time, I may evaluate opportunity. Most of us, when we speak about information security, we speak about risk, but sometimes security may add some business. If I ask you why I have access card for the room at hotel, and what is the opportunity I can use it for this? To be honest, I can use the information security to reduce the air condition consumptions, the electricity consumptions by the hotel room. So I use the information security as an opportunity. Moving forward to now, I have all the threats, all the vulnerability. I need to design policy. And the policy here is a very important rule because it is very tailored. It is the constitutions of the company or organizations based on what I will design for. So I need, and this is aligned with outsourcing options. It is not outsourcing. I may consult third party who is a very professional to move and translate this threats, vulnerability, opportunity, and regulation into constitutions of documentations. This policy is a plan. What is my plan? What is my rule? And I can use any information security standards controls to put it in this policy to apply. As of now, it is a plan, it is a document. So at this stage, policy is still inactive and they cannot help me to detect threats. Applying the controls of all types of control, monitoring, detections, response, identify, and recovery, all of this control may be go for deployment. Before deployment, design, deployment, executions, and operate. During this operation cycle, there will be some feedback that ask you to develop and return back to your policy to enhance it. And this is the cycle of developing policies to align with the emerging threats in the market. So whenever there is a threat, you will modify it. Whenever you decide to move to the cloud, you will reassess this again, reassess the threats, vulnerability, the risk associated, adapt your policy, and push it again to be aligned with your move of a cloud, for example. So at this stage, you have to be sure that the policy is not a static, it is very dynamic and should be reviewed with any changes you are doing in your organization.
Excellent, excellent. So Ronald, this will take us actually from a policy defined on paper somewhere to policy executed somewhere else. And from your experience as an expert in the endpoint security, and Crowdstrike have a big name in this domain, do you see that the attacks, and since now most of your endpoint security is coming from the cloud, so I think you see a lot of threat attacks coming towards your client. So from your perspective, do you see that the attacks happen on-prem are different from the attacks happen on the cloud? And from your perspective also, and what you see within your systems, do you think that the cyber attacks usually will end at the cloud provider or could extend to the on-prem services for your clients?
Thank you for this for this question. Absolutely, the types of attacks and the severity of attacks is evolving as we move towards more cloud adoption. I read a very interesting stat the other day. Gartner says that 95% of threats in the cloud are related to customer misconfiguration. Basically, the wrong assumption that your service provider, whether it's AWS or Google or Azure, are in charge of securing your assets, which is not very true. It's more of a shared responsibility model. So the types of threats that we see are mostly focused on identity in the cloud, misconfigured data buckets, APIs that have been left open, APIs that have been shared with a third party to develop an app for us and forgotten about, lack of audit trails. So we used to focus on firewall logs, proxy logs. We have a firewall that's protecting our on-prem server. Today, as we use multi-cloud environments, different applications from SaaS to infrastructure, etc., we have to evolve the way we defend these assets, because if we want to just shift what we use on-prem to protect the cloud assets, it's unfortunately not going to work for us. So the way forward I see it is we have to be more selective when we're choosing security solutions. We need to focus on future-proofing our investments, making sure that our providers and vendors actually have a solution that extends from on-prem to cloud, because also compromising cloud assets may lead to the compromise of on-prem assets, whether is it through VPN tunnels or through any shared data between cloud and on-prem. So we have to remove the false assumption that we are secure by default in the cloud, and we have to review what type of data we have in the cloud and what type of security controls are there.
Okay, excellent. So Mahmoud, coming back to you, and about before you moved, like you spoke about moving to the cloud and what security assessment could be done. So from your perspective, before you outsource a cybersecurity function to a service provider, what security assessment you could do or you did already to ensure that your security, your environment is secure? And if you did this before and you have the chance to do it again now, are you going to do anything in a different?
Yeah, very good questions, Samer. Of course, before doing any outsourcing or going to cloud, the first things I have to have data classifications. What do I need to protect? So I have to have data classifications in place. I know my assets very well. Then I have the right, the policies, the organization policies that I need to apply it to the other outsource. Secondly, I will look for, carefully look after the partner that I need to deal with, like to have success stories, references in the market. In addition to that, the status of the managed service provider, financially, bankruptcy, presence within the market, because most of, like not most, some of the managed service provider, they don't have any presence, just virtual offices, and you can't do anything for them during incident or breach. So having a presence, well-known company with good reputations, it help you and make the decision easy for you to go with them. In addition to that, you have to have your partner well known about your business core, because knowing your business core will help you to ease the work, the issues, the workload. Also, we have to have the right to audit. Right, the audit, and what is the requirement, what is the regulation, what is the audit requirement they are doing. So without right to audit to the company, you can't have an agreement with them. So within your written scope or SLAs, you have to have these statements very clear. Look after the regulations that they are followed, whether it matches with the local regulations, your sector's regulations, and there is no a bridge for those regulations. Those will fall down under the privacy. Okay, the privacy for your data and the data, the information that you protect, or the assets. The asset could be informations, technologies. Prior to that, so I have to know what exactly I need to outsource. Does it partial or fully services to that one? Doesn't mean that I'm fully transfer all the responsibility to the outsourcing. Still, I'm accountable for that one because I have oversight to what they are doing, monitoring the SLAs in timely, define the response time in terms of incident, breaches, who is going to do what, everything. It should be written very well. It's not just verbal discussions or a gentle agreement. No, it has to be written. And finally, it's the teaming who will come in boarding. I have to have screening for those stuff prior to joining. I have to ensure the basic security requirements are applied on them. Because most of the incidents, the breaches, it's come from the team itself, from the people, who's the weaknesses control within any organizations.
Okay. Good. Yeah, this is something I always say. The human is your weakest link in your security. Whatever systems you have in place, at the end of the day, you will have a user that want to click on a link somewhere. So Mounir, if we want to shift gears to you now, from your perspective also, do you think that the cybersecurity responsibility could be shifted to the service provider?
Thank you for this questions. Also, there was an energy company called Enron for doing a huge business in the energy in the United States. And this company has been shut it off because of some violation of information security policies. I think if we back one step and ask ourselves, if you are a victim for data breach of, you are a security responsible for bank, and you are responsible of attacks of data breach that disclose 1,000 or hundreds of thousands of customers. Are you going to get any value that compensate from the third party compensates the damage of such attacks? I don't think so. So a responsibility shift is limited. It is not on the level of the high level of information security, but it's micro responsibility. So I make contract with a company to doing security operations, security monitoring, incident response, or a company that could help me to conduct assessments, or a company that maybe deliver me a threat intelligence information. But for me, as a owner, I am responsible to secure the data of organization. I am responsible to secure the operation of organization. So let us see in the industrial control systems or the financial systems, you are the owner of the data and you are responsible for it. And your control over the outsourced agencies is must. You have to measure it in very accurate, periodic, reported with the third party outsourced. But still, it is your responsibility. It is your accountabilities. I cannot shift the accountability of protecting data to a third party, because whenever I lose these informations, the impact will come to my business and not the third party I outsource for this. So again, when I'm outsourcing information security, there should be somehow contractual control. There is an operation controls, and there is a continuous measuring the deliverables of this outsourcing. This effort is responsibility of the owner of the informations and the accountability of the information. But when you come to the micro levels, yes, you can shift some area that you don't have experience and expertise on it. While you should keep your eye on it, measure the deliverables and measure everything of it changing this threats and the vulnerability in your organization. So this is the answer. You cannot outsource the responsibility, even with the trend of a company that deliver insurance for my information security. Whatever I pay for you to insurance, it will cover a specific zone, a zone of recovery data center, a zone of recovery certain process. But when it comes to information disclosures and reputation issue, it will touch you directly without any concern about the outsourced company.
Excellent, excellent. So we have a service provider. I will call you Roland in this call. So from your perspective, do you see that COVID-19 situation actually accelerated the movement to the cloud in general, not only in cybersecurity but also the other domains of the IT?
I couldn't agree more with this statement. Amazon was saying that the online shopping has accelerated 5 years in a couple of months during COVID, which means that this is the new normal we're living in. And I think after this pandemic is gone, inshallah, as we say in the Middle East, we will have a new normal that we call the work from anywhere normal. If we're not working from home, we're going to have the flexibility of working from home, from office, from a coffee shop, etc. Security teams were not ready for this shift that quickly. So they used to have their proxies, their firewalls on-prem, felt secure. But now we have people working from their living rooms with no security controls in place except probably the VPN agent and the AV agent. I fully agree that this COVID situation has accelerated the cloud adoption and the digital transformation of many businesses. However, security in many organizations didn't keep up. And our role as service providers is to help enterprises and organizations who are going through this journey willingly or unwillingly to secure their transition to a cloud model, because I believe that even after this pandemic is gone, the digital transformation is not going away. We're not going back into our trenches where we lock everything in a data center. Today, what cloud is offering, we have unleashed so much processing power and connectivity options and application development options in the cloud that we have to adapt and accept the fact that we are going to soon or later adopt cloud solutions. So how can we secure them? How can we safely enable our users and our consumers to access our cloud-based services?
Good. And it's not only in the Middle East, you say inshallah, we say it here in Canada also. So inshallah, yes, it will go.
Great.
So a question maybe to the three of you, and each one can give me some of your experiences as we move. So from your, like, we have people in the call from a banking background, we have people in the call from telecommunication background, and the service provider. So what, like, if you can share with us your experience of what you have been, what you learned from the recent actually breaches that happen into a cloud provider's domain. And we can start with Mahmood as usual.
Yeah, actually, what we have learned, most of the breaches, it's a weakness of certain control. It's the human controls. So what I would prefer from my point of view is to increase the awareness program, security awareness program among the organizations, to target all the audience and repeat it is not frequently, every quarter, and to have self-assessment from each employees, because most of the attacks come from whether internally or through the social engineering. So increasing the awareness will help better the organizations to avoid such weaknesses. In addition to keep reviewing the controls within the organizations, because in the financial sectors, we could say we have all the solutions in place, but we might have missing the governance part or the weaknesses within the human being. So we have to look at those aspects very carefully and increase the maturity level of it. Then hopefully we could be secure 100%.
Okay. Mounir, your experience.
For me, I'm not pushing everything against people factors, but I have another two factors that maybe also bypass the people factors is the supply chain and how the supply chain may change all the game of the threat and the attack vectors, and the software and the 0 days. And the software development life cycles. Sometimes people is very the easiest way based on the threat actors targeting the service providers. So to target a specific service provider, I may be interesting to do a social engineering regarding the team working in this organization. Whatever the vendor of the cloud, but I will target the vendor who have a high privilege to the cloud service provider. And then I start my attack vector, it changes rules. But the threat actors who have advanced techniques maybe go far one step back to the supply chain. I understand these cloud providers acquiring some supply chains from a different vendors. And maybe I attack the supply chain cycles to reach to attack this. And this is most of the cases who type of attackers that we call it nation state attack, who is can create opportunity instead of using opportunity. He create opportunity by creating some chance to let the cloud service provider go to a weak supply chain cycles. And also the third point after people and supply chain is the software. As of now, if you have a rapid software development life cycles that may be avoid the control while develop this from design to development to implementation and to testing, source code review, threat modeling, there is a lot of things that could be avoidable. And for the purpose of cost reductions, this will lead to a high number of 0 days. If I have a 0 days, it will lead and break the cloud, whatever, if it is, the people is very mature and the supply chain is a very well defined. So these 3 factors, I am saying this is the whole sector, the whole area that may affect the cloud service provider and against attacks, especially from nation state attacks.
Okay, excellent, excellent, and thanks for sharing, Mounir. Roland, what's your perspective on that piece?
So, my thoughts on that are the old saying, trust but verify. So don't take anything for granted when you're selecting a security service provider. Go through a rigorous validation process with your security partner. I like to call them partners rather than providers. Go through the compliance checking, go through the privacy conversation with them, validate what type of data is shared, how it is handled, how it is secured in transit or in motion. So be very selective as an organization in who you choose to work with as a security provider. Obviously, compliance, validation, privacy conversations are key. On the side, of course, the technical capabilities play the #1 role in the selection process, but we should not have an oversight on the other areas as well.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So going back to the privacy comment that at the beginning you guys mentioned. So now again, this is a question for the 3 of you guys, is between you as an entity or a business owner or a company and your security service provider, which part you think, or which party you think is responsible actually to ensure the privacy of within their service levels? Keep in mind, I don't know how now the state of the nation and the GCC area and the Middle East area regarding privacy and privacy controls, but leave that aside now. If we want to take it in general, is it you or it's the service provider responsible for the privacy? And we can start with Mahmood.
Yeah, actually, as I stated earlier, the privacy, it's the organization responsibility, because barrier to outsourcing your services to the provider, you have to assess your data, classify your data, which data you are going to give visibility to your provider. So the responsibility, it might be allocated to the service provider, but as organizations, we are the accountable for that. In addition, we could have it in a security requirement within the contract agreement. In case of any data breaches, so who should be responsible for that? So it can't be a service provider, it's 100% the owner, which is the organization, who own the accountability for the privacy. I can reduce my risk by requirement within the contractual agreement within the provider, but can't be a service provider responsibility at all.
Okay, Mounir.
As Mahmoud said, classification is the key. And based on my classification, I have to define what is the required control for every classifications, and what is the data I can accept it to process outside my zone, which we assume it's a cloud. Also, the control can define how you deal with data. For example, most of the cloud service providers is doing bring your own key. So I can even do whatever required of controls to encrypt the data, protect the data, even that service provider cannot overlook for it. And by this way, I can keep the data securely protected by my own encryptions in processing, in transmissions, and in storing. By this way, I cannot apply this for every data classified, but based on the data classification, I have to decide what data should keep in mind, the data should be in cloud with encryptions and required control to protect my data, and what is the data it is normal and public. Based on this, based on the classification, I design the control for everyone, and I create a matrix, classification versus control, until you from the public to reach to bring your own control or using hardware security module that could keep the data encrypted without any access from the cloud service providers.
Good. So Ronald, like I want you to answer this question, but also I want you to keep in mind that Crowdstrike, since it is in the endpoint domain and security, you have access to a lot of telemetry from the endpoints of your clients. So what exactly you are collecting and how you see yourself as a defender of the privacy of your clients?
Thank you. It's a very good question. As a major endpoint security provider for thousands of organizations, privacy is actually a top concern for us. We have a specialized data privacy and compliance department. So rigorous controls are in place. First of all, what we collect is only what we need to have in order to protect our customers. Telemetry, metadata from endpoints, nothing more. So it's important to see what type of data is leaving your organization. Second, you have the responsibility as a customer to verify that your service provider, whether it's Crowdstrike or another provider, is actually putting in place the right technologies and policies to protect the data. So how are we securing our customers? We have a SOC 2 compliance framework, a Cloud Security Alliance framework, a PCI compliance framework, to make sure that whether our customer is in the healthcare business or in the financial sector business, we're not violating any compliance framework. So obviously, when you decide as a solution provider to be cloud-based, you have much bigger responsibility to protect your customer data. At the same time, you need to give comfort to your customers that they're not going to get any headache from an auditor or from a compliance supervisor, etc., while adopting a cloud native solution. Cloud native solutions are there to stay. It's up to us as customers and clients to make sure that we choose the correct ones.
Okay, awesome. So if we want to go back, like I think we are in a place now where the four of us agree that we can really outsource the cybersecurity operation, or what has been known before as a SOC service with some added layers. But Mahmood and Mounir, specifically from your point of view as a consumer, do you think that we can actually outsource the cybersecurity governance piece to a service provider? Or this is something you want to keep it in-house, close to your heart?
Yes, actually, for the governance part, I would prefer to have it in-house, taking the assistance from third party, because the governance, it's for IT governance, it's it's part of the organization governance, which shouldn't be outsourced. However, taking assistance from third party, it's okay, but I would not prefer to have it that outsourced due to regulations, restrictions. because, you know, we have in the region here, we have the Gulf, we have restrictions to the governance, the policy restrictions. Even for the previous subject is the privacy. Sometimes we are not allowed to go outside due to restrictions, due to data residency. So yeah, keep things within the organizations. It will give oversight, more control in that one, and customize based on the organization itself. And I can attend assistance in certain part within the third party.
Awesome. Mounir?
For this issue, I think it is where is the legal authority that can control your third party is very important, because whenever there is incident or attacks for service provider in the United States, I have to go for the court in United States to disclose some information and they make some investigations. That's why, and to break any privacy issue. That's why it is very restricted. Even if you have a third party, it should be the data center and all the data within the country that hold these informations. So the legal cycle, the regulation cycle should cover and not travel outside this zone of the country that fall under a specific law rules. So we have seen now GDPR, and we have seen a rule for United States. Every country, every zone try to restrict the confidential data within the legal and the law rule that keep this information in a way to avoid any intersections of the legal issue within a different country. And this lead us to the issue. We have a very big issue within the international cybercrime regulations, international cyber data privacy. All of this is an issue because there is no something like the UN can organize this conflict or this issue. So every country need, even if they outsource to a cloud service provider, to be physically exist within the country.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So Roland, I will ask you a different question because again, you are in the service provider side and you are in the place where you see a lot of data coming to your platforms. How you think AI will help you as a service provider actually in tracking and analyzing the data you collect in the cybersecurity domain? And if this is actually an option now for consumers to have?
Very valid question. Today, in the modern threat landscape, we have millions and millions of new malware strains and attack techniques that are fully fileless, that are attacking our environments. We see ransomware as a service now on the dark web. We see many new attacks that are purely based on scripting, PowerShell script or a Python script, no malware executables available. So the approach that we've used for many years that is based on writing signatures for files is not meant to protect customers in, I would say, in 2020. So AI today is all around us. So we see it from the Google Assistant to our Amazon recommendation to our Netflix recommendation. In cybersecurity specifically, we can no longer rely on writing snort rules or writing Yara rules or updating signatures on a daily basis. We need hundreds of people to write new rules every day, and it's not scalable. So AI and machine learning, what we've done in Crowdstrike is since more than 7 years, we've hired some of the best minds in data science and machine learning, and we've leveraged their capabilities to be able to deliver today a solution that is based on AI. AI helps accelerate the way we deal with new alerts, with new threats, with new detections. It helps us reduce the noise. So absolutely, I'm in favor of selecting security solutions, whether on endpoint level or on cloud security level or on network security level, that are leveraging some form of AI. And we need to verify that our vendor is not just using AI as a buzzword, but it's actually delivering on its promise to discover 0 days, to discover new attacks, and to show us how we can use an AI-powered solution to discover and block new threats.
Awesome, awesome. No, this is good actually, and the AI is a buzzword now, where everybody is actually going in that domain. So, like, we are almost at the top of the hour, and I start to see some questions coming from the audience. So I would like to thank them very much for their feedback. But actually, there's two questions caught my eye, and because we already briefly spoke about them. One of them actually I can direct to Mahmood about what are your recommendations when considering a disaster recovery strategy for your cloud solutions?
Well, I would like to shed light in the enterprise level or for the banking sectors. As you know, the enterprise sectors, they having multiple environments, production and non-productions, and they are spare a lot of monies, times, efforts to build and maintain these resources. Giving an ideas for the enterprise or who handling a huge assets to shifting to a private cloud for non-productions where you can save time, money, etc. And you have more stability. You have because the assets, managing these assets, applications, softwares, hardwares, etc., it's not an easy task, especially for the legacy systems. You will avoid the end of life, the end of support, the scalabilities, because you want, you are in growing environment, so you want to grow day by day. So I would prefer for that once I would prefer this to shifting the non-productions, like the development environment, the testing environment to the cloud using non-production data, like dummy data, just to test the functionality of the solution. It will save time, cost, and efforts.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And another question also came into that discussion. I know, Mounir, you spoke about third party and the importance of a third party in the supply chain. So the question is, what are some of the best practices to audit third party vendors from your perspective?
Thank you for these questions. Audit process, there is two categories of audit: a compliance audit and the operation audit. A compliance audit is to audit the third party against a certain standards. And for me personal, I feel like this is like very old school that have a checklist that asks without any deep investigation how the control is effective. Operation audit is different than compliance audit. Operation audits, you will go for measuring the effectiveness of controls. I have a username and password, and this username and password is 16 character, but I write from 1 to 16, and this is my password, and it's complex and it's long, but it's not effective. So it is, I always recommend operation audit for third party that could ensure the effectiveness of controls, any threats that target my information. This is the best practice. Operation audit to a third party, it means sampling, it means checks, it means configuration reviews, architecture reviews, and not just a compliance audit scheme, which is passing through the control as a checklist. And finally, you have approved, but effectiveness of control is not exist.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And yeah, I really, usually the third party piece is missing from most of the security assessment. Like you assess your environment, you assess your people, you assess everything within your house, but you forget about your service providers and your vendors. And I think from history, we know that there is a couple of major security breaches actually happen because of a lack of control or security controls within the vendor environments. So Roland, like I keep going back to the vendor because you have more I will say more knowledge, you have more access to R&D, you have more information from the companies and the people you deal with, more than us as a consumers, I would say, or end users. So from your perspective, going to outsource cybersecurity function for those organizations, what is the word of advice that you can share with us that we can take it forward back to our organizations?
Absolutely. It's a great question. Thank you, Samer. So what I would strongly advise is let's go back in-house. Let's review and assess what we already have. What sort of controls, what sort of policies, and what sort of technologies did we invest money in? Let's also review from another angle what sort of resources we have to handle these technologies and what sort of additional help we need. And finally, let's think about what we want to keep in-house and what we want to outsource. Let's only keep on board the technologies that are actually future-proof, I would say. So I would probably review my budget and start cutting down on the technologies that I believe are not ready to protect me when I'm moving to a cloud model, to a work-from-home model, or to a digital transformation journey. That's number one advice. Number two advice is, of course, talk to more than one provider. Be very selective. Today, the market is providing you many options. So talk to many people. Don't take anything for granted. But third, finally, the last piece of advice is let's really believe that the cloud security providers are there to protect our organizations. So I need to select which one fits my business, my use case, but I cannot really move forward in the future without relying on third parties. So they are part of our security strategy going forward. So with that, I think it's a wrap for my answer.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I really enjoyed the hour. I really like those type of conversations where you meet with different people from different entities, from different verticals. We learn from each other, and actually, this is why I love such an event that CyberX usually provide us with. I don't know how I will get this chance to speak to people in a different continent, actually, different verticals, and 1 hour, like everybody having the chance to give us their feedback and share with us their experiences. So I would say in 10 seconds, Mounir, Mahmoud, if you want to add anything, please go ahead and do it. Nothing to add, Mahmoud, Mounir?
For me, my advice is it is the time to move a little bit from the compliance-driven security to threat-driven security. This is the way to be effectively defense your corporate, your business, your information.
Excellent. I will take this advice, Mounir, and I will implement it myself. So I would like to thank you all for the time today. Really shared experience, and thank you very much. And hopefully we will connect soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.